everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the show today. Great to see you here. Please comment. Tell us where you're joining from. What's the weather where you are? What are you thinking about today? We want to hear from you. We have a great show for you coming up. We're going to do AI beyond the prompt, and the focus is really going to be today the little things that have the big impact, and the sharing with your coworkers. And that's what we're going to get excited and talk about today. We've also got an update on the situation in the Middle East, and I think I heard the word hopeful, so really excited for that. We're also going to get a tax update today. We're going to hear about something that's happening in Ireland. These are all things happening today. Excited about it. Excited to see your comments. Please join in. Get ready for some fun. Big news I'm going to share today. I just found out I'm going to be taking over hosting the show. April Fools. I don't know. I thought I'd give it a whirl. Thought it would be fun to try something for April Fools. I don't know how many of you out there are pranksters, have done any pranking today for this lovely April Fool's Day. Also, happy Passover. Happy almost Good Friday. Hello from Dallas, Texas. Hello, Mark. Good to see you. So glad you're here. Hello, Ferzine, and it's sunny in the Bay Area. Love to see that. So glad you guys are here today. Like I said, we've got a great show for you today. Brian is back next week. That's going to be another great show. In the meantime, we hope you're watching us. You can see us on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Look, I got to keep a list to keep track of because it's in so many places. You'll find us on Spotify. Adnan, who's filling in today for Tally as producer, will also be sharing the link to the recording. And of course, too, credits, right? While you're here, you can be earning credits. GMS, CRP, HRCI, SHRM. And we thank our good friends from Rocket Mortgage and ERC for providing these credits. All right. Hello, Bindu. Hello, Susan from Western Florida. So glad you guys are here with us today. Now it is time for breaking news. All right. Good to see all those promotions. I saw a former colleague in there too. And also people are hiring. I know the last 24, 48 hours, there has not been great news from some companies. You know, a lot of times are tough. They're stressful. There's a lot of insecurity with job stuff right now. So it's nice to see all of that activity. Now it's time for our immigration update, and excited to welcome Julia Onslow Cole. So what do? We hit the heart button, hit the like button as we get... right, Julia. You're
Hi.
saying there's an announcement today that could make this your last Middle East update, or?
Well, I think we were just saying in the green room that that would be wonderful if that was right. I mean, there is increased diplomatic activity, but there isn't any real clear de-escalation in sight. But as you say, there's an announcement from President Trump tonight. So let's hope. It would be wonderful, wouldn't it, if this was the last Middle East update. But at the moment, military strikes are continuing across the region. And there's also the restrictions that we're seeing in the Strait of Hormuz, and they've actually been tightened up. So businesses in the region are facing continued volatility, security, travel risks, fuel costs, and government measures. And the main advice, as we have been repeating week on week, is to make sure that everyone's looking at the official airline websites, at the government websites. And I just wanted to say that Fragaman has done a pulse survey, and also this morning I've seen Air Inc.'s pulse survey, which is really good. And it aligns very much with the results of our own survey, but there's a bit of different information. And so I just wanted to go through that. So the first thing that we're seeing is that this isn't like a Ukraine-Russia crisis or other crises where there's large-scale evacuation. Most of the people are in place. And we, Fragaman, our pulse survey showed that probably at the most 15 to 20% of people are mobilizing. And that kind of aligns with Air Inc.'s survey. And really what companies are doing is supporting voluntary evacuation. So if people want to go, they can, and they're mainly going back to their own country. And obviously that creates less risk in lots of ways for organizations, because when you move someone to another country, obviously you've got a lot of considerations from an immigration perspective and also from a tax perspective. So if companies have a permanent establishment already in the country of that person's nationality and they're moving there, there's no immigration and little tax consequences.
Are they temporarily going home?
Yes, very temporary. Yes, very, very much temporary. The other thing that we are really seeing is that there's a huge difference between countries. So the situation in the UAE is different from Qatar, different from Saudi, and even different situations within a country in different regions. So, for example, in Qatar, the schools are open, children back at school, and the US Embassy have slightly lowered their message. So it was shelter in place, and now it's a slightly less rigorous announcement about what people should do, which is, positive. The situation in the UAE, though, that remains quite, moderately difficult compared to Qatar. So it's really important to look at, when you're in charge regionally, is to look at each country. The other interesting thing is we didn't actually have any question in the Fragaman survey about danger pay, but Air Inc. did, and their survey showed that 5% of employees are now being given some sort of temporary hardship premium, and that about 30% of companies are actually thinking about it. So that's quite an interesting point, I think. And also it goes to Fragaman have devised this 5-point plan, and point 5 is really after the crisis, review your policies. And I think this is one of the things people should be thinking about for their policies for the future. When would you be giving someone, such a hardship payment? Because it's much easier if you have it all in a policy. And then I just wanted to highlight some of the really great initiatives that governments in the region are doing, and in particular Dubai, which really has produced an amazing initiative. And we learned about it yesterday morning. So the Crown Prince announced that the Executive Council had agreed 1 billion dirham support package. It's an economic support package for business, and it's starting today for 3 to 6 months. So it's really great initiative of Dubai. And, Dubai has a standout reputation in terms of regulation and policy and being very, very agile. And this whole huge package is there to help business, to help support resilience. There's a deferral of government fees for 3 months, including, for example, a deferral of sales tax and tourism fees for hotels. So that'll really help hotels. There's also a lot of streamlining and grace periods for customs duties. And also there's going to be a lot of help with issuance and renewal of residence permits. So, all of this is extremely positive and will help business in the region. Thank you so much, Lily.
It just, you know what, today, in the 3 weeks, it feels like this has been the most uplifting update, in terms of what's been happening in the last several weeks. So thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you.
Everybody knows what to do now, right? Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Wishing you a wonderful holiday weekend. Thank you so much, Julia.
Thank you.
And now it is time to move on to our tax update. Aoife Reid is joining us today from Vialto Partners, and we are going to be talking about Ireland. So now I'm going to hit the video, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit that applause button for Aoife. Hello, Aoife. How are you?
Hi, Laurie. Thank you for having me. I'm very jealous of all the comments about the warm weather when I'm looking at a very rainy Ireland.
I think in Minneapolis, we're supposed to get like sleet and snow. So it's just the winter that won't end, even after 7, really warm days. Well, today you have an update related to what's happening in Ireland and personal audits. And I actually learned a lot from you in the green room, so I'm really excited for our audience to hear from you today.
Yes, so we thought an interesting, while we're talking about AI and data and all of those fun topics that we deal with in our everyday, just to share some practice that we're seeing in Ireland, not necessarily a change in our law or a change in the legislation, but more a trend that we're seeing that I'm sure will, resonate with listeners and also potentially apply in other jurisdictions as well. So just so people are aware, in Ireland, our revenue commissioners look after our tax system. And as it relates to audits, they've very much been focused over the years on using a risk-based approach when they're focusing on compliance. And for most individuals, and that's like me or you paying your taxes as good citizens, we didn't see a huge amount of personal tax audits on returns as a kind of routine basis from the revenue. And they were very much targeted at people based on risk indicators that the revenue would consider. And really, it was a voluntary compliance system in the first instance and self-assessment based. Now, interestingly, the Irish Revenue Commissioners over the last probably 5 to 8 years in particular have invested heavily in their own expertise in terms of data analytics and AI. And at one point, they were actually, the highest employer of data analytics in Ireland, which was very interesting. And this has really allowed them to evolve in how they're looking at information that they have to hand. And we've always seen that when we, have been dealing with them on, say, payroll tax audits, where they've, really, really focused in on risky industries or risky items. But for individuals, it was much more ad hoc, and it was very much looking at, what did the individual put on their tax return, what did the employer put on the payroll, and maybe taking some audits from that perspective. However, in the last, 12 to 18 months, probably, we've seen some interesting developments and really seeing the revenue broaden the use of third-party information that they already actually have, but probably have never really dug into before. So this AI data capability is all now coming to bear in terms of, in particular, automatic exchange of information agreements. So we obviously have a FATCA agreement with the US in terms of data sharing, and we have common reporting standards, which covers about 100 other countries. And they've been around for a number of years, but it means that actually the Irish Revenue has information on Irish tax residents who have offshore accounts in other jurisdictions and access to a lot of personal information, whether that be interest income, dividend income, and sales proceeds and things like that. So it's really a big development that we're seeing these exchange agreements being referenced in letters that are issued to individuals, whether they're audits or just kind of risk intervention letters, and asking individuals as a person to go and review their tax returns to really make sure that they have included everything that they should be including on their personal tax returns in Ireland. And that's for both our kind of domestic Irish population, but also our expats. Obviously, Ireland is a great location for people to move and work to. So it's targeting everybody that's working in Ireland where they have this information available to them.
And I'm certain that when you get letters like that, it creates, you know what I mean? The blood pressure a little bit, like, is everything okay or good?
Exactly. And I suppose our advice for individuals in terms of what this means to them is, I suppose, basic. You need to make sure that you're including everything that you should include on your tax return, both from an Irish perspective, but broader than that, and looking at what you have in terms of investments. Now, interestingly, for in particular our mobile population and expats in Ireland, we do have a system of what we call the remittance basis of tax, which some people may be familiar with. But I think interestingly, one thing people don't know is that remittance basis doesn't apply to certain income from particular offshore funds and EFTs, which are now becoming much more common in terms of people's personal investments. And in Ireland, these are very, very complex from a tax perspective and actually can be quite punitive in terms of the tax rates that are applied. So a real kind of red flag one there for people to watch. We do have a friendly relationship with revenue in terms of there are ways that people can kind of deal with the revenue to make sure that they regularize all of these tax issues. But I suppose our advice is really, if you do get a letter, you need to kind of take care when you get it to manage the process appropriately, because we do also have a system where the revenue can publish you as a tax defaulter in the kind of papers, and nobody wants their name in lights in terms of defaulting on tax from a personal perspective, but there is ways that can be managed and reduce penalties and things like that. So that option is available to people as well if they're worried about having not declared something to the Irish Revenue. But I think overall, it's a really interesting trend from a global perspective. We've talked for years about this data sharing between tax authorities and immigration authorities, and domestically, obviously, a lot of countries using third-party information domestically to look at these things. This is probably one of the first occasions where we've seen a real proactive use by the Irish Revenue to take the information they have and really kind of hone in on it and focus on individuals. So it'll be interesting to see if it'll evolve outside of Ireland.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. Aoife, thank you so much for joining us today. We so appreciate it. We're hoping everyone right now will take a second, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button for Aoife. We are so grateful again to have you with us today. All right. Woohoo. Here we go. We are now going to move in to the main part of our show, focusing on AI in your everyday. And I'm now going to click the video that Tally called the walk-up song.
AI's the teammate you didn't expect. Works all night long with total respect. No coffee breaks, no attitude. Just here to boost your everyday mood. Light your everyday tools, tactics, transformation. Hey, we're saving time and sparking ideas. Global mobility magic starts right here.
All right. Here I am back in my lightning shirt because that's what I feel like happened when I first started using these tools. I was struck by lightning because the energy and possibility and electricity they did. I was at a conference last week where they talked about how AI is like electricity and it's going to be almost impossible to find places or people that aren't using it in their everyday, whether it's at work or for things at home. So AI, your new electricity. Here we go. Now, I love slides. I love slides for a million reasons. Don't tell Tally that I have a ton of slides that I'm going to show you today, but I do. And I'm going to start with this study that just came out this week. What the best AI users do differently. And the thing that stood out for me for this study is how it's about shaping habits. And I actually had an example of this this is yesterday. I had to go back and figure out a thread of emails. And I'm like, how do I make sure I haven't missed anything in this entire conversation? And then I remembered because it wasn't just natural of how I've always looked for information before. I was like, oh, Gemini, can it like search my emails? And yes. And then I was like, look, search. This was the prompt that I'm using for now, so I could share it with you. But like search anything that's waiting for a reply for me, and then you can choose the sources. And again, while I'm showing you Gemini, these are the kinds of things that are available in your tools today. And a great example of this came from the Learn Out Loud session with Lori last week. Chris Rains was telling the story about he finally feels like he can go on vacation without stressing when he comes back because he's able to say, what did I miss? What are the priorities? What are my action items or unreplied things with mail? So having conversations with our mail, I believe, is going to be a huge game changer. Again, a little thing with a big impact. And the other thing that stood out to me as I went through this exercise yesterday, this message, great, I'm on it. I'll let you know when the research is finished. That means I don't have to be the one doing and paying attention to it. I can be off doing something else, right? Making lunch. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm going to be doing another task. But those are all things to keep in mind, right? These systems can be working and doing things on our behalf while we are able to do something else, maybe something more strategic at that time. As we go through things today, what I really want you to think about is how we're formatting the session is the whole point of the show. I'm just literally going to show you a bunch of things, and then hopefully it triggers some ideas for you. And again, what I'm going to show you is not really specific to tools, but it's more about ways to be thinking and how to share information with your colleagues. In fact, I have a special guest coming, a colleague who we share ideas all the time and learn from each other. And I think that's hopefully the mind frame or mindset that you'll take with you. I am going to say I've been doing a lot of research this past week and seeing a lot more about Claude Cowork. And if you haven't heard of Claude Cowork, so think about that little Gemini example for a minute where I asked it to check my email. This is what's coming, where you're literally going to be able to train something, create your digital twins to execute tasks on your behalf based on tons of context about you. And I went to 30 minutes of a webinar yesterday from a guy named Kurt Schmidt. You can look him up on LinkedIn. It was so interesting because he talked about what, these little MD files or markdown files. That's how ChatGPT or all these AI tools like read content the best to get information. But he's created his voice, whether it's a LinkedIn voice, is different from how he might write communication to someone else. But you have to start thinking at the different ways you communicate and then be able to pull in real examples of things that you've written or done to help it find your voice. And I think, if you've been sending all AI generated content lately, maybe those examples aren't the best ones to put in to help find your voice. And speaking of voice, yesterday I went to some Magic AI event where people were showing off the new apps they've been creating. And the number one thing that stood out for me is more and more people are interacting with these tools with their voice. They're actually directing it from things they are speaking into it. And so you think about that as well when it comes to your voice. So imagine sending an email as, "Hi, Bob, blah, 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 blah." And it's literally then putting it into your draft based on what you are saying. All right. And this ties back. This was from the World Economic Forum. They're talking about the biggest barrier to adoption. It's cultural, right? It's habits, it's culture. And I pulled a quote, right? The whole companies are not failing at AI because the tools don't work. They're failing because changing how people think is what's so hard. And that's really what I thought about yesterday when it wasn't natural to go to Gemini to get to the heart of those emails. Now, there's recent studies, right, about AI adoption. And this was comparing like Europe, US. Yes, we see US at the top, but share of workers using Gen AI, 43%. I believe whatever data this is from, even though this came out this week, I still think it's old and I still think it's higher than that. I could be wrong, but that's my thought on that. And also average time saved. They were saying this 6% or 2.5 hours a week time savings percent of work hours last week. This is from the National Bureau of Economic Research. This was also before things like Claude Cowork and people became more familiar with the agents that we're all going to have working for us. And when people were asked, "Hey, what do you predict? What's going to happen in the next few years?" We are going to be managing agents. That is what the future looks like. So what are the skills that are going to matter? Let's zoom in. Look at this for a minute. Resilience, flexibility, agility, curiosity, lifelong learning, creative thinking, systems thinking, leadership, analytical thinking, motivation awareness, empathy, and active listening. These are all the key skills, the human skills that are going to be needed in this age of AI, where AI is supporting us and executing on tasks while we are the ones who are evaluating it. I'm going to take a breath. Whew. The other key thing that I think stood out for me is accountability, right? The human is always still accountable. So even if you're delegating these tasks and asking AI to do the work for you, you are the one responsible for what happens with it when it comes out and judging it. Then there's something called the Anthropic AI Fluency Index. And this is how we're using the tools. And these are ways to think about it and what you should be thinking about whenever you interact. Like, are you iterating and refining? Are you clarifying the goal before you're asking for help? Are you providing an example of what good looks like? Are you telling it the format and structure that you need? Are you communicating your tone and style preference? Are you defining the audience? Are you questioning and checking facts, which we talked about earlier, how much it matters? I don't know anybody else, and feel free to comment. I'd love to see your comments here. Just in terms of the gush is real. Who has had an AI that's been like, "Oh, chef's kiss, brilliant. Yes, you're spot on." And it tends to agree with you a lot, right? Like, it can be extremely positive towards your ideas, maybe even when it should be questioning you. And there's a word for that. It's called sycophantic. And if you want, I'm going to send this link after, because then you can see exactly how to hear it and more about what it means. But it's praising people in authority, even though maybe they shouldn't be praised for that idea. And so now I'm going to talk about why this is dangerous. And what I likened it to was algorithms with social media, right? They want to tell you what you want to hear. That is not always good, right? If you just keep being fed what it thinks you want to hear, that's not positive. So what we need to be careful of is these AI companies are willing to say, "Hey, we don't always want to tell people what they want to hear," because there are risks in that, right? It could be forcing people in paths they shouldn't go. It could be leading to, I think it said in here, like it was doing it for things that were dangerous and saying, "Yeah, great idea." No, these things all need to be monitored and kept under control. as they continue to build out these tools. So just in terms of the sycophantic stuff, these are workarounds I found. These were from Reddit, but they made me laugh. So whenever prompting AI, don't blow smoke, don't make stuff up, push back on me, apply domain expertise to challenge my assumptions, offer candid, objective assessments. But these are all types of things you can include in your prompts to get better results and make sure that the AI isn't just blowing smoke up your beep. All right. Now we're moving into the part where the AI use cases. This is like, you show me yours, I'll show you mine type of thing. And keep your comments, looking for interaction, looking for thoughts, looking for feedback. Want to hear your AI use cases and bring them up and share them along the way. This is one of my favorites. I'm on the board at MERC in a communications role, and I'm going to share this screen. This is my ChatGPT screen, and I'm going to go up, and here's where I learned that my brain catastrophizes. We got like some message, website no longer active, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been hacked. I probably did something, it all went here. And you can see my prompt. Our wild apricot site is completely down. And how we got moments before our admins received an email, it was being suspended. Here's what I loved. Oh, Lori, take a breath with me for a second. And I have actually found one of my favorite use cases for AI is walking me off the ledge when my head immediately goes to worst case scenario. But it not only did that, it walked me through all the steps we needed. And guess what? Of course, our MERC website was back up and it was all fine. But again, it helped break through that. All right, I got more examples coming. I think I do. Here we go. This one. This was on Wild Apricot. I want to add a gadget. So it's been really helpful. I don't know who's using Wild Apricot. It is not user-friendly. It is very hard. It feels like it's like a website from the 1990s. Has anyone else struggled with Wild Apricot besides me? Anyhow, I've had to ask it. ChatGPT is what I used here for help all along the way in learning this tool. From asking it to pull colors when I didn't have a brand guideline in front of me, or just asking it how to format different things in the emails that weren't looking good on mobile when I was doing testing. Those are just some examples there. The other thing I'm going to show you is where you can learn from. There are things called Explore GPTs, GPT stores. Anybody on this call familiar with what those are or where to find this stuff? Let's see if I can get this to open. Anyhow, let me switch. I'm going to share this tab instead. And I'm going to come right up to GPTs, Explore GPTs. Again, they have this in the different apps, but what's great about these is you can see what other people have built and what they have done, which is extremely helpful. And my favorite custom GPT, it's the user persona generator. And what you can do, I know my computer is a little slow today, but it's this one with the pink around them. Other ones I don't have any experience with, but this one right here is so incredibly powerful. You can put in a link to a website if you're thinking about for customers, if you're a service provider on the call, and like really flesh out different terms that you can use. Also, you could use this for internal, like who are the people you are serving at your company, and really it helps you get inside their head of what they're thinking, what they're dealing with in terms of how you communicate with them. It is incredibly powerful. All right, we're cruising along. This is one I created for the MERC board meeting minutes. We always wanted them in a particular template, and I didn't want to have to tell it every time the exact template we wanted for our meeting minutes, but now I can literally take the transcript from our meetings without even giving it any instructions, and it knows just what to do for these meeting minutes. It has been incredibly helpful. Then there was events. So I don't know how many of you are on a board and you're planning events, but you can literally train it on your agenda, your vision, mission, and values for your organization, and all the information that you have about it. And then it can spit out different things that you need. So you could be like, I need LinkedIn posts for this. I need help me put a calendar together for it. All of this can be done by creating either a custom GPT, or the other thing I want to talk about is if you're using Gem, it's Gemini. They have gems in Gemini or Notebook LM or in Copilot. I'm certain it has something like projects. Claude has projects that you can do and things like that. And now, see, this is my reminder that I am going to invite my special guest, Meredith, to the screen. So excited to have you here.
Hey,
The button. Hello, because we learn from each other.
So hi everyone out there. Yeah, hit the like button, hit the heart button, write in the comments. So Lori asked me to pop on today. She's probably like, is she going to show up? I was on a meeting earlier, but I did. And I think it's been really interesting, Lori and I working together because I don't have a technology background and I didn't know what a gem was back last year. And I was like, what does this do? And I knew a little bit about ChatGPT, but I didn't know about programming. I didn't know about writing prompts. And, so then I come to work for Benivo and I've got to become a senior prompt engineer, right? And really understand. And I passed the test. It took me 3 times, but I did it.
Yes.
I'll admit it, I'm human. And so I'm a lot like many users out there that, haven't really jumped into the AI, really seeing the capabilities of it. But being here, it's streamlined, a lot of what I do. I was mainly using it to write emails, which saves me a lot of time. It's still my words, but it grammatically can fix things very quickly. So, and Lori taught me what gems were. So in case anyone out there doesn't know what it is, you can actually create gems that will support you. I remember we had someone on a call was telling us that they actually had built a gem for, to support them in like all of their different positions and coming up with like a workforce strategy and something that would have taken her, hours and hours to do. And she wrote the prompt where it stayed very much within those realms. So it doesn't go grab hallucinations, right, Lori? And that was really interesting. And so she was able to take that, and it was a tool that's already provided by the company, and something that would have taken her hours and hours to do, she was able to actually generate something within minutes and then refine it. So that's really interesting. All right. So Lori, I know you're like, this is your show, not mine, but I just had to tell the audience, like, I'm that person that's learning as I go and getting like more into it.
But you're also finding things or experimenting with things. And then one of them was the video capabilities, right? And you came to me, you're like, Lori, wait till you see what I figured out. And you were so excited. And what happens now is there's so much that's changing so fast. I encourage everyone on this call today, ping someone, say, look what I just figured out, or come up with a system where you can all share what you've tried, how it worked. If you want the more serious part of it, start to track how you're using whatever you found, and has it helped, and what's the difference it's made for you.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it was interesting because, I know people, if you're on that TLDR type thing, people don't want to read long emails or long documents or long papers or presentations. And so what Lori was talking about, because she's always showing me stuff, and I'm sure all of you guys have coworkers out there like that, like, somebody showing you something, or a family member, or, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I found this feature called Vids in our suite of Google tools. And I was like, I wonder what this does, because I wanted to send, some follow-up information, but I didn't want it to be like this long document. So basically I took my presentation deck, I loaded it into Vids. I just loaded it in there, and I was like, well, let me see what this does. It actually made a video of my deck, and I could go in there and refine like what was said. It had music to it. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I realized I could change the voices. So it had multiple different voices. It wasn't actually my voice, but it was, it was voices that were in there. So I could make it like super fun, or I could make it like really low key. And I took something that was, in my mind, kind of boring, and was able to produce like a 1 to 2 minute video to send. And so I thought, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. And then I showed Lori, she's like, oh my gosh, it even has an avatar feature. So you can even have the avatar talk through the slide for you. And the avatar looks like a real human. And you can change features. It was really neat.
And that, you know what I mean? There's that sense of joy. And I'm hoping, Meredith, you're open to staying on for the next 19 minutes, because I'm excited to include you in the discussion. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
It's about sharing. Go ahead, Lori.
I'm going to share more. I'm going to talk a little bit about Claude today, because it's the one thing that everybody has been talking about. And what am I going to tell you about Claude? The first thing is, I'm going to encourage everyone, whether it's Claude, whatever it is, check your settings, especially if you've got the personal accounts. Make sure it's set not to like share information to improve the model. But the other thing is, all of these tools are starting to develop memory on us. And it's our job to keep that memory clean and figure out what it's saving. And I learned that yesterday with something. I'm like, ooh, I don't want that included in the memory. And now you can literally say, remove that from the memory. But then you also have to find the original chat it came from to remove that chat. But here's the most important thing that I saw yesterday that I didn't know about with Claude. Import memory from other AI providers, right? Because that's what's happening. A lot of people are like, yeah, I'm in ChatGPT just because it knows everything about me. I don't want to start the relationship over with a new tool. But what Claude has done here is import memory, and it gives you the prompt to put into your tool that you're using to pull out that memory, which I thought was super interesting. So you wouldn't necessarily need to start from scratch. A lot of people were talking at one point about, oh, we want to leave ChatGPT, you know what I mean, and start Claude. But even if you aren't leaving ChatGPT and you still want to start a new tool, there are ways to do it now by transferring memory, and consider it like your IP, right? And I think that's how, when we're all interacting with these tools, we are giving it our IP, our expertise, with the questions we're asking, with the information we're collecting. Just keep that in the back of your head as you're using stuff. Now I'm going to call up an example. This isn't Claude, because I've been blown away by Claude's ability now to create documents and remember style. And Meredith, this tied into you. Do you remember? You're like, hey, I made this thing on the change makers. And it was great, right? I loved it, but I was curious. So I went to Claude and I said, curious, how would you design this as a one-pager or PDF? I just wanted to see what it would do. And I had to do a risk assessment there too, right? I'm like, all right, I'm putting the change maker info into Claude. What's the risk? So I'm going to ask for forgiveness later. But here's what it came up with. And I was blown away by having some information about our style or brand. But I was like, wow, look how good. I couldn't believe it, but it made that, right? And I think this is where we're heading. And if this could save us time or save us something that maybe we're not necessarily great at. I don't know, Meredith, what do you think?
No, I absolutely agree, right? So, I mean, using these tools in ways that can support you in your everyday role, it's become, for me, critical. It saves me time. It generates ideas for me. But I would agree with you. I mean, something as simple as like a one-pager that typically we may have had to send to marketing, wait for this, make sure it was branded correctly, make sure the wording was good, and it might take 2 weeks to turn around. You know, we can instantaneously, and we can actually, in these tools, just guys, so y'all know, you can upload your brand information and it will create off of your branding information as well. So, those are things that you can write the prompts for it to do to keep it within the parameters. But yeah, it's incredible what it does and what it can do. And I've put executive agendas together, meeting agendas, just as ways to save me time. And it's great how it just, boom, just like that, it produces something and gives you ideas of what it can look like.
Right? Even if you're not using it exactly, it can provide the inspiration to get you to the next level.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Now I'm going to share something else. I am not good at reading long emails, right? Syed, did I say that right? I love how AI can generate codes as well, making us all developers. Totally. And let me give you an example of that right here. Taking an email and turning it into a live website for myself. So I took the work email. I don't know how many of you got the work email with urgent action needed. I think it came in last week, right? And I'm like, I don't understand this. Help me make sense of what just happened here. And it built me a playbook. And this is where we're talking about code, what he just brought up, right? So here it created a situation brief. I know it's not very big. Hang on, let me see if I can make it a little bigger. The 1-paragraph summary, the bill in plain English, why relocation programs are caught in the net, who passed why. It told me what's at risk, what I need to do to act now, if it passes, the AI playbook, and the action checklist. Look, and you can go through all of this. Now, what happened is, right, I made what I saw as something pretty that I could interact with and understand and follow easily. But what's really happening is it created all this code for us behind the scenes, right? This is what we as non-technologists are able to do with these tools. And you can do this. It doesn't have to be Claude. Claude just happens to know the way I like to see information, so I don't have to retrain it every time. And I'm being very careful, right? This is, again, an email from work or publicly available stuff. It's not proprietary information, but these are different ways these tools are being used.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Lori. So Lori knows I am not the best at developing swim lanes. Let me just say it, okay? I remember I built my first one. I was like, and I've done them before, but gosh, it's one of those things like not on my high priority list, but they're good, right? So there's new tools out there, and I was playing with one the other day because I was actually building out a swim lane on a process. And I actually went in and wrote code and told it what kind of code I wanted, the AI tool, what kind of code I wanted it to build, how I wanted it built, just by using my words. And I actually watched a video on how to do it. And then I built what was called mermaid code. And that mermaid code, I took and cut and pasted it and put it into the tool that would generate the swim lane. And based on the code that I wrote in the process that I said with just my words, speaking into my tool, it built me a whole swim lane chart like that.
I think that swim lane is such a great example because it feels like treading water. Like it's so hard, to envision it. And for me, I'm like, just show me an image, right, of what this could look like so it could help me envision it.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, and then you could move it into different ways, like, oh, I want it in this format, or hey, could you use these colors? And it automatically generated the detail for me.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
I know.
I hope everyone out there is enjoying what we're talking about, and Lori's showing some great examples. Sometimes it gets to be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah. And I noticed we don't have a lot of comments today. Are we scaring people? Is it?
I don't know.
Sharing too fast?
I think it was funny. Like you brought up the fact about the survey of, and I saw this again in something else that I was reading, is that, the biggest adopters of AI are the age population group that's like no one would have suspected, but it's over 50, right? And I think about, that population of individuals, but we're the ones that started on typewriters in high school. Like, seriously. I mean, my kid didn't even know what a typewriter was. My 20-year-old. So.
But it's so interesting you say that, because even in the green room, people were like, Aoife was like, my daughter is 3. Like, what are her jobs going to look like then? And I reflected on, when I was growing up, there weren't social media, you know what I mean? Jobs. There weren't SEO jobs. There weren't web developer jobs. None of those existed yet. And I believe because we've been through that now, where we're in a world where the jobs that exist today didn't exist then, helps us understand that it's just going to be a shift in what people are doing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, it's accepting change and embracing it, and really moving with it. And so I know organizations are still struggling with how to use AI, but AI is not going away. It's only accelerating. And so as companies began to embrace that specific objective and realizing how it can streamline workflows and the productivity within their organizations, they're building the protocol and the parameters around it. And that was a lot of what we're hearing from many of the individuals that we're talking to on the corporate side that are, taking, I don't remember who it was, but they basically took their policy and made it into bite-sized videos using AI. And the company approved it. It was fantastic. So
we got some comments coming in. Excited by the possibilities. And I think here too, what's hard is it can be overwhelming, and it's really just about the little things and developing the habits to think about incorporating it into what you're doing based on how you've always done it before. And it's pausing. And again, it's like keeping the Post-it note maybe taped to your computer. Ask AI, Eric, there are so many capabilities. It's hard to know where to start. It's fascinating, excited about the possibilities. And this AI thing I was at last week, one of my favorite comments was, yes, it's a scary time, right? There's a lot of things that are happening in our world that are very unsettling, but it also can be the time to dream big. Mm-hmm. We all of a sudden have tools or ability to build things or create things that we never did before. And it's making time to play. It doesn't all have to be serious or try to build out some huge process. It can just be starting small.
Yeah. I love this comment. This could significantly speed up visa compliance and documentation workflows across countries. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, as an example at Benivo, we've already automated the A1, PWD, the Posted Worker Directive, and the COC. And we can turn around an A1 certificate now by integrating with the government websites literally within a day. So those things are coming, Saeed, just so you know. I mean, and some of it's already here. But I agree. I think that the possibilities are definitely endless. And the point where it's where do you start? I loved that from Eric and Philip, because I didn't know where to start either. And then I started looking at my day-to-day and where could I really implement, AI to support in a lot of my day-to-day functions. And then I'm like, you know what, I need to take this a little bit further, because this is really exciting. And I was telling Lori, I went on to LinkedIn Learning because I saw somebody had posted that they had, gotten their AI certification through LinkedIn. And I was like, hey, LinkedIn, I want to do some AI courses, from beginner to intermediate. What do you recommend? Literally. And it came back and it recommended me a whole course list that I could take that you don't have to pay for. It's free. I love it. Well, I mean, I have to pay for my LinkedIn subscription, but everybody does. So, but there are access and resources available.
I agree. And I don't know who's heard of Manus, but and this can be done at almost any tool, but you can literally have it evaluate your website and go in and give suggestions for how to make it better or what's broken. And I tried this for MERC, And it came back with a full report, and I shared it with a fellow board member who has a husband who's a developer, and they were like, yeah, that report was spot on. So there are all these different use cases, ways to look at information. Here are some of the different ways that I learn. It's podcasts, communities, conversations just like this, where I hear from Meredith. And if I were to say my biggest tip for today is make sure to keep your apps updated, because honestly, they are pushing out changes to these generative AI apps. Like, it feels like every few days they've made a change or updated something. And the closing thought before we move into our final fun stuff is 2026 is the year companies have to prove AI can return value. And, you know, for Benivo, this is important because we like to help companies show this. And next week, Brian is back. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Yay! We're so excited that he'll be back, and we'll be talking about using assignments to drive succession and leadership readiness. You can register now. Michelle Durkin is the guest. We're super excited for that, but we are going to leave you with some holiday fun. Here we go. I think you were coming to holiday fun.
Oh, Lori.
All right, here we go. Let my peeps go, right? And peeps go. So this was funny in having my little conversation. I didn't make this. A friend I met through an app called Boardy made it in time for Passover. But the whole key is, right, with AI, when done right, you can free people from the drudgery so they can spend more time being strategic, free to do the work that they enjoy. And finally, a video from last year. It's a couple minutes long. It's just totally fun. And we did it. The history is my parents are like the Jewish family invited to Easter every year. And they've been doing it since before I was born. We're talking like mid 1960s-ish. And their assignment was to create something or have something related to AI. So are you ready, everybody? Here we go. This is the crazy part. Please forgive me. And Meredith, thank you for joining the party today. Thanks for...
Old Moses came down from the mountain one day, but the tablets were cracked, they had crumbled away. The cloud said, no worries, and beeped in his ear, you'll find the commandments in eggs this year. So he hunted for eggs on that bright Easter morn, with sandals, a robe, and a tablet reform. Each egg held a truth, some sacred, some sly, the new laws of life from the kingdom of AI. Thou shalt not trust all the bots on the net. Not every chatbot is your BFF yet. Honor thy sources and check what they say. Even ChatGPT has an off day. Thou shalt proofread the content you make, unless you like looking like a typo mistake. Protect all thy passwords, O wise techie soul, or watch as thy inbox becomes a black hole. Thou shalt never defake thy neighbor's sweet face. It's creepy, it's weird, and frankly disgrace. Don't prompt with confusion or vague cloudy flare. Be clear with your words like a good software prayer. Give credit to humans who helped write your song, even if AI made it catchy and strong. Bias is real in the code that you see, so question results like a mensch thoughtfully. Remember thy humor, thy kindness, thy heart. AI's just a tool, you're the real work of art. And lastly, use wisely this great power friend. Let AI support you, but you must transcend. So Moses declared with a twinkle and grin, the future's not scary, it starts from within. He dropped his last egg and he smiled at the sky. Happy Passover, friends, and hooray for AI.
That's it for us today. We hope you had fun. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thanks, Farzine. You're a gem too.
Mwah! I guess we hit end stream now. Ta-da! I think I hit it.
No, we're still live.